What happens when one of Hollywood's most respected actors decides he's done playing polite on live TV? When a morning show turns into a battlefield and a conversation about legacy becomes a fight for truth? You're about to find out, because what went down between Denzel Washington and Michael Strahan wasn't just another celebrity interview. It was a collision of conviction, ego, and raw honesty that left an entire nation talking. Watch the full story and decide for yourself. Was Denzel out of line, or was he the only one brave enough to say what others wouldn't? Don't forget to hit subscribe and share your thoughts below, because this moment isn't just about Hollywood. It's about every time someone refuses to stay silent when the world expects them to smile. The morning feels calm, almost too calm for New York. Outside the Good Morning America studio, Times Square is glowing with screens and sunrise glare. Inside, the set hums with quiet confidence. Another A-list interview, another day of polished smiles. Denzel Washington walks in with his usual grace, dressed sharp, voice steady, handshake firm. He's been here before, countless times, and he knows exactly how this goes. Small talk, a few laughs, a question about the new film, and that's it. But this morning, something in his energy is different. His smile doesn't linger as long. Across from him, Michael Strahan flashes his trademark grin. Charming, camera ready, but there's a flicker of something else behind it. Maybe nerves, maybe intent. The countdown hits 0 and they're live. The first question sounds polite enough, but the tone carries weight. Some people say that when someone's had as much success as you have, it's hard to speak about inequality without sounding hypocritical. The word lands like a brick on glass. The crew doesn't move. Denzel leans back, fingers tapping the armrest once, a quick rhythm that goes unnoticed by most, but it's a tell. The silence between them stretches just long enough to make everyone uncomfortable. Denzel's eyes don't leave Strahan. Hypocritical? He repeats quietly, his tone calm but sharp enough to cut. You'll need to be more specific, Michael. What exactly are you implying? There's no anger, just a demand for clarity that puts Strahan instantly on the defensive. Strahan tries to pivot. Well, some industry insiders, people who've worked with you, have said that your recent comments about Hollywood's system don't line up with your own position in it. The phrase industry insiders hangs heavy in the studio. Denzel tilts his head slightly, a faint smile forming. Not friendly, but knowing. You're quoting people who won't even use their names. If we're having an honest conversation, let's keep it honest. Who said it? His tone stays level, but the weight behind it is unmistakable. The camera operator zooms in instinctively. Strahan's smile stiffens. Behind the glass, a producer whispers into his earpiece, and stay on legacy angle, don't let him steer it. Strahan adjusts his posture and tries again. I'm not here to attack you, Denzel. I just think some people question the timing of your statements. Denzel doesn't blink. Michael, success doesn't cancel the right to tell the truth. Just because I made it through the fire doesn't mean everyone else should have to burn too. His tone is calm, but it lands like thunder. He leans forward, voice low, almost intimate. Success doesn't mean silence, and comfort doesn't mean integrity. The words hang in the air, thick and final. Strahan tries to keep his voice even, but you can hear the edge in it now. He glances at his notes, then looks back up. Denzel, some people are saying your recent statements about the industry, about power, sound like you're trying to rewrite your own legacy. The studio goes still. Even the background hum of lights seems to fade. Denzel doesn't answer right away. He just studies Strahan for a beat that feels too long for live TV. When he finally speaks, his tone drops low, steady, grounded, dangerous in its calm. Rewrite my legacy? He repeats slowly. I've been consistent for 40 years, Michael. The only thing that's changed is that more people are finally listening. His words aren't loud, but they carry a gravity that makes everyone sit up a little straighter. Strahan swallows, trying to hold control of the segment. I understand that, but to some it feels opportunistic. The word hits the air like a spark in a room full of gas. The control room suddenly comes alive. Directors shouting timestamps, camera ops zooming in tight. The red recording light seems to glow hotter. Denzel's eyes narrow. Opportunistic? He repeats, his voice sharpening. You think I waited 40 years to make noise for attention? He pushes his chair back, stands up slowly, and the room tilts with him. The interview isn't a sit-down anymore. It's a standoff. The stagehand near the edge of the set raises a hand, ready to give the rap signal, but hesitates. No one wants to cut it short. Everyone knows they're watching something real, raw, and volatile. Denzel takes a step closer to the table between them and says quietly, "You don't rewrite legacy, Michael. You live it." And for a moment, nobody dares breathe. The air in the studio feels different now, thicker, heavier. The audience can't see it, but everyone in that room can feel it. Denzel's tone stays calm, but every syllable hits like a hammer. My success doesn't prove the system works, Michael. It proves some people can survive a broken one. He pauses just long enough to let it sink in. The fact that I made it doesn't mean the road wasn't covered in glass for everyone else. Strahan shifts in his seat, keeping that practiced host's composure, but there's tension building behind his polite expression. "But come on, Denzel," he says, his voice carrying that half-smile tone morning TV loves. "We've seen progress. We've seen doors open. Isn't that something to build on? Why tear down a foundation that's finally holding?" Denzel lets out a short laugh, one that sounds more like disbelief than amusement. "A cracked foundation doesn't hold, Michael. It just hides the damage long enough for people to stop looking at it." He leans forward slightly, eyes narrowing. "You can paint over rot, but it's still rot." Strahan fires back, his voice tightening now. "Maybe, but constant negativity isn't helping anyone. At some point, don't you think it starts sounding more like complaining than inspiring?" The word complaining changes everything. The crew can almost hear the shift in Denzel's breathing. He straightens his back and looks at Strahan like he just crossed a line. "Complaining?" he repeats, quietly but dangerous. "You think I'm complaining because I refuse to sugarcoat the truth?" The control room panics. A producer signals to cut to a safer topic. His next film, the awards buzz. But Denzel sees the teleprompter flicker and cuts it off mid-sentence. "Don't pivot, Michael," he says sharply. "You opened this door. Let's walk through it." Strahan's smile drops completely now. "All right," he says, voice lower, more pointed. "Then let's be real. How do you expect people to follow your message if all they hear is anger?" Denzel doesn't blink. "Maybe they should be angry," he fires back. "Anger built this country, Michael. Anger ended slavery. Anger gave us civil rights. Maybe the real problem is that people like you are too comfortable to feel it anymore." The control room falls silent. A stagehand near the set whispers, "Oh, he's not pulling punches anymore." Strahan exhales, shaking his head, but his voice trembles slightly when he replies, "Or maybe you've mistaken destruction for passion." Denzel's expression hardens, every bit of warmth gone. "No," he says, his voice dropping to a low, even tone that commands the room. "What you call destruction, I call truth. And truth doesn't care if it makes you comfortable." The lights hum louder, the cameras zoom in tighter, and everyone realizes this isn't an interview anymore. It's a reckoning. Denzel's restraint finally gives way to something deeper, controlled fire. His voice rises, not in volume but in force. "You want receipts, Michael?" he says, leaning in. "I've mentored young actors who couldn't get callbacks because they didn't fit the mold. I've funded film programs in neighborhoods that Hollywood doesn't even know exist. I've fought for scripts no studio would touch until I attached my name to them. That's not talk, that's work." The crew can feel the weight of every word. He's not preaching, he's testifying. Strahan, visibly tense now, keeps his tone measured but sharp. "No one's questioning what you've done, Denzel. But at some point, when you take shots at the very people who gave you those chances, you start burning bridges you might still need." Denzel's head turns slightly, his eyes narrowing like he just heard something ridiculous. "You think I'm worried about bridges?" he asked quietly. "Some bridges need to burn, Michael. Especially when they only go one way." The line hits like a body blow, quiet, clean, and final. The control room lights flare as the director splits the screen. One feed still going live, the other streaming directly to a private monitor in the executive suite upstairs. The execs are watching now, whispering behind their hands. On the studio floor, a sound tech mutters, "This is way past morning TV." Strahan straightens in his chair, trying to regain footing. "You can't change anything if no one will work with you. he says. Sometimes diplomacy does more good than destruction. Denzel doesn't hesitate. Diplomacy? He fires back. Diplomacy is what people call it when they want you to shut up but smile while doing it. You don't fix injustice by making it comfortable for the people who cause it. The words hang in the air, heavy and electric. Strahan opens his mouth, but before he can respond, a phone buzzes on the table behind the set. One of the producers checks the message, then looks pale. A text from an actor's rep flashes on the screen. This is ugly. My client's out if this continues. The note passes quietly from hand to hand in the control room, but it's too late to stop what's already happening. Denzel leans back slightly, his expression hard but calm. See? He says, almost to himself. They only stay when it's easy. And for a moment, nobody can tell if he's talking about Hollywood or humanity itself. Somewhere behind the glass in the tangle of monitors and caffeine-fueled nerves, a junior audio tech catches something he shouldn't. Through his headset, he hears the producer's voice, sharp and calculated. Ask if he's chasing relevance. Let's see how he reacts. The kid's eyes widen. He glances toward his supervisor, but no one else seems to notice. On set, Strahan straightens in his chair, that familiar broadcast calm masking a new edge in his tone. Denzel, he says carefully, some people think your recent statements, your sudden activism, might be less about truth and more about staying relevant. The sentence lands like a grenade. No one moves. Even the hum of the studio lights feels quieter. It's the kind of silence that carries danger, the kind that makes everyone realize they just witnessed a line being crossed. Denzel's expression barely changes, but his energy does. The warmth drains away, replaced by a cold, measured intensity. When he speaks, his voice is low and lethal. Relevance, he repeats. I was relevant before you even saw a red tally light come on, son. Before your first highlight reel. Before this network figured out how to package sincerity for ratings, Strahan blinks, caught off guard by how calm the response is. It's the calm that comes right before a storm. In the control room, panic sets in. A hot mic picks up the producer again. Keep him standing. We're clipping this. Viral gold. The words bleed faintly into the studio speakers, barely audible, but enough. Denzel hears it. His head tilts slightly, eyes narrowing. Not angry now, just realizing the truth. The confrontation wasn't spontaneous. It was engineered. He exhales slowly through his nose, that quiet, knowing kind of breath that says he's piecing it all together in real time. So that's what this is, he mutters, half to himself, half to the room. You're not after a conversation. You're after a clip. Strahan shifts in his seat, confused, not realizing yet that Denzel's not just talking to him anymore. He's talking to the whole machine. The tension doesn't just hang in the air now, it hums, ready to explode. Denzel takes a deep breath, his tone suddenly calmer, heavier. The kind of calm that feels like the quiet before a storm. You keep throwing around words like relevance, he says, eyes fixed on Strahan. But what I care about is principle, justice, equality, truth. I don't care how they trend. He leans forward, his voice tightening. You call it anger because it's easier than calling it accountability. And you want to know the real reason people like me make you uncomfortable? Because I refuse to package the truth in something easy to swallow. The room goes silent, except for the faint buzz of the lights. Strahan leans back, jaw tightening. I'm not uncomfortable, Denzel. I just think there's a difference between being heard and being helpful. People want solutions, not sermons. Denzel smirks, that controlled kind of laugh that carries no humor. Solutions? The problem is everyone wants to fix the house without admitting the foundation's rotten. He reaches into his jacket pocket and pulls out a worn, folded piece of paper. You want to talk about what matters? He unfolds it slowly. The crease is visible under the studio lights. This is a letter from a kid I never met. A young actor who couldn't afford college. He wrote, Dear Mr. Washington, thank you for paying my tuition. You didn't know me, but you gave me a future. That kid's starring in his first movie next month. Denzel looks up, eyes fierce now. That's what relevance looks like, not trending hashtags, not press tours, real impact. The studio stays frozen. Even the stagehand holding the cue cards looks down. Denzel continues, voice lowering again. Humility isn't silence. It's service. It's showing up for people when no one's watching. But see, service doesn't sell ad space, does it? Strahan exhales through his nose, trying to stay composed. I respect that, Denzel. I really do, he says carefully. But people watching this, they want more than outrage. They want direction. You say the system's broken, okay. Then what's step one? What's the plan? Denzel folds the letter and tucks it back into his jacket with a deliberate motion. Step one, he says, voice slow, deliberate, is naming the rot without a permission slip. You can't heal what you refuse to diagnose. Strahan opens his mouth to respond, but Denzel cuts in, sharper now. And don't ask me for a 10-point plan on live TV while your network profits from the same dysfunction I'm talking about. Strahan's smile fades completely. That's unfair, he says, his tone finally cracking. Denzel nods. Yeah, it is. But so is pretending this industry's progress means the work is done. Fairness isn't comfort, Michael. It's truth, and it's supposed to sting. The last line lands like a thunderclap. No one moves. No one blinks. The silence feels louder than applause. Strahan's voice drops lower, calm but tight, the kind of calm that's more armor than peace. Look, Denzel, he says, maybe the issue isn't what you're saying, it's how you're saying it. You come across angry, defensive. People tune out when it starts to sound like an attack. Denzel takes a slow step forward, closing the distance between them until only the desk separates them. Angry? He repeats, his tone cold and deliberate. You call it anger because it makes you feel safe. It lets you avoid what I'm actually saying. I'm not angry, Michael. I'm awake. Strahan's eyes narrow, his charm fading fast. That's not what I meant. I just think your approach turns people off. You could reach more folks if you didn't make them feel like they're the enemy. Denzel smirks faintly. My approach, he says, voice rising now, is the reason you're even sitting in that chair asking me these questions. My approach opened doors you now walk through like you built them yourself. The line lands like a hit. Strahan straightens up, bristling. You think I haven't earned my seat? He snaps. You think I haven't fought my own battles? Denzel steps closer, his tone sharpening to a blade's edge. You fought to fit in. I fought to change the room. Don't confuse the two. The control room bursts with chatter, producers waving for restraint, a stagehand frozen mid-step near the cue cards. Strahan leans back slightly, trying to reclaim control. You're lecturing people who are on your side, he says, his voice cracking just a little. At some point, you're just pushing allies away. Denzel lets out a small, humorless laugh. If they're real allies, they don't need comfort, they need courage. But if the price of truth is losing the comfortable ones, I'll pay it gladly. The cameras zoom in tight, framing Denzel's face like it's a close-up in a courtroom drama. The floor manager kills the applause light. Even breathing feels loud. Strahan's voice hardens, frustration creeping through. You talk about courage, but what you're doing looks like ego. You burn bridges, insult people, walk away, and call it righteousness. Denzel tilts his head, smiling without warmth. You can't burn a bridge that only ever went one way, Michael. Some connections are meant to collapse under the weight of truth. He takes a long breath, then unclips his mic slowly, deliberately, every motion echoing through the set. Here's the thing about respect, he says. Respect without understanding is meaningless, and understanding without action. That's complicity dressed up as manners. He places the mic not on his chair, but right in front of Strahan, on the desk between them. You can keep talking, he says quietly, but I'm done pretending this is a conversation. Strahan starts to speak, but Denzel cuts him off with a single look. You wanted a viral moment? Congratulations, you got one. Then he straightens his jacket, turns his back to the camera, and walks off. No music, no outro. Just the echo of his footsteps as the studio freezes, every person realizing they've just watched something that can't be undone. The camera doesn't cut when it should. It lingers, too long, too quiet, on Strahan sitting there alone, shoulders slightly hunched, still catching his breath. The studio lights glare against the empty chair across from him, the one Denzel left behind. A producer's voice crackles faintly over the intercom. We're still live, but no one moves. Strahan forces a weak smile toward the wrong camera, trying to stitch professionalism back together. But it's too late. The silence says everything. In the control room, a ratings graph spikes straight up. Phones buzz. Messages pour in. One network executive mutters, "We need the full clip, now." Advertisers start pinging the network's Slack thread. "Send us the context before we pull or double down." The control room is chaos disguised as whispering. Within minutes, the real bomb drops. A staffer, still shaken from the confrontation, DMs a reporter a raw audio file. It's the hot mic moment. The producer's voice, cold and calculated. "Keep him standing. We're clipping this." The leak hits Twitter before the segment even finishes rebroadcasting. Hashtags explode. Hashtag Denzel walks. Hashtag bridge builder versus truth teller. Hashtag morning show meltdown. Half the internet calls Denzel unprofessional. The other half calls him the only man brave enough to say what everyone's thinking. Clips flood TikTok. Slow motion replays of him setting the mic down, freeze frames of Strahan's stunned face, remixes with gospel choir soundtracks. News anchors start rewriting their morning rundowns mid-show. The story has already outgrown the set it happened on. By noon, headlines read like courtroom verdicts. Denzel Washington ends GMA interview in stunning on-air clash. Did ABC set him up? Integrity or ego? The debate that split the internet. Late-night hosts start prepping monologues before lunchtime. Denzel's quote, his last words before walking off, spreads like wildfire across every feed. Respect without understanding is meaningless, and understanding without action is complicity. But one shorter line steals the algorithm. A single pull quote trending across platforms, stitched into memes, t-shirts, and headlines alike. Polite conversation isn't more important than real change. It's no longer just a moment. It's a movement. And everyone watching knows it. If you believe moments like this deserve to be seen, not buried, hit that subscribe button and join us for more stories that challenge, confront, and reveal what really happens when the cameras don't blink.